The journey is conversations with ordinary people about stories of transformation and how we may have had setbacks in our life and how we persevered through those, how we've learned from those obstacles, and how they've maybe helped us on our path today.
Well, welcome to the Journey. My name is Kevin Polke, and I am the host of the Journey. And we have a special guest with us today, Greg Saunders. Greg, I've known Greg for many, many years, and we have different ways of how our paths have crossed over the years, and then a long history with your wife, Christy, as in the Cluck family. I grew up and went to high school with them. And so we have a long history directly and indirectly. So
Yeah.
welcome to the journey.
Thank you, Kevin. Pleasure to be here. Glad to be a guest.
So this is our first time for you being on the journey, and maybe just if you could just let the listeners know when you have an opportunity for fun,
Mhm.
what does Greg do for fun?
What does Greg do for fun? Well, probably my favorite thing to do is to grab the kayak and go hit the Kishwaukee. I like kayaking on the Kish and getting out in nature and listening to nature sounds and no other sounds, and just cleansing the brain that way and getting some workout. I'm one of those guys that when I dump in the river, I paddle upstream as far as my muscles will take me, and then let it bring me back to where I started.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, that's my thing. And then of course, karaoke and trivia are fun hobbies as well. So that's that's something that we might talk about a little bit today too.
Sure, sure. So, yeah, tell us a little bit. How did you get it? When did you start doing the kayaking, and yeah, how'd you all get started with that?
I've always wanted to have a canoe, and probably 10 years ago or so, I found a friend of ours, actually a former student that Christy taught, was selling their canoe. And I was like, I'll be right there. I'm coming to get it. We brought that here, and we live near the Kishwaukee down here in New Milford. So we dump in at Atwood Park and go canoeing up and down the Kish, and had a lot of fun with that. The problem with the canoe is it's too big for one person. I need but I didn't always have a partner to go canoeing with, so I wanted to be able to go alone too once in a while. So that's when I grabbed the kayak and started doing that. And it's just one of those super enjoyable things that you can totally unplug for an hour, 2 hours, depending on the day and such. And I really enjoy being out in nature, seeing the fish and the deer and the many turtles up and down the Kishwaukee, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I had the same experience growing up. My uncle had a canoe, and we had a canoe, and it was, and this is back in the 70s. So, the canoes weren't the same, then as they are today, but it was a two-person job for sure, any way you looked at it. And then when got into more the kayaking, and there's different types of kayaks, obviously, and
Yeah.
and being able to much more manageable for one person, even if it's a two-person kayak, it's still much more manageable than a canoe.
Made out of play. Have you seen the ones now that fold up?
Oh, no, no.
My
Wow.
buddy Alex has ones that folds up, and it's like the size of a suitcase. And then he takes it out and unfolds it, and it's ready to go. It's crazy. I was like, wow, that's really convenient. I like that.
Even more so manageable, right?
I just got a small 8-foot Sun Dolphin. I can fit it in the back of my SUV, and it's easy.
Nice, nice, good deal.
Yeah.
So, Greg, just a little bit about your backstory, just for the listeners to kind of catch up. Are you from the Greater Rockford area?
So I grew up in a little town called Wind Lake, Wisconsin, which most people don't know unless they're fishermen types, because a lot of people like to fish around Wind Lake. The town I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin, it kind of felt like living on an island because we were surrounded by lakes. We had the big Wind Lake to our east, and then Lake Wabasee to our south, and Long Lake to our north. I was in this neighborhood surrounded by lakes. It was great. Lake Danoon was right there. So I had a lot of fishing opportunities. The funny thing is, all those years of growing up in Wind Lake, I never went water skiing. I never learned to water ski. I tried last year with the ski broncs because I was actually on the ski broncs team years ago as their MC, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't. The mind over matter thing. I I tried and I failed, and I'm okay with that.
You know, it's interesting that I think water skiing or downhill skiing or snowboarding, it's definitely one of those things that if it gets introduced to you early in life, I
Yeah.
think it's a whole lot easier to adapt to it and build on it from there. And then, like you said, this part here, the mind part, is what gets in the way, I think, of trying to do what about the old dogs and new tricks and
Yeah, I think I could downhill ski. I think I might still try that, but I feel bad for my niece because Melanie is a great teacher and she's taught many people how to ski. And at least that day, I just couldn't get over the pull factor of trying to pull and not just let the boat pull me. Anyway, that's okay. And I've got I've got other things to do.
Exactly. So, and so, you've been married to Christy. How long you and Christy
Just
been?
celebrated our 30th anniversary this year.
Yep.
So
Happy anniversary. And you guys have something like 15 kids, right? 100
we
kids. No, how many kids do you guys have?
we have six kids. I had three with my first marriage, so we joke that it's not a joke, it's the truth. Christy married four people on our wedding day.
Yeah.
She chose a path that was not the easiest to take, and I'm forever grateful that she did. She did want to have children of her own, and I was glad to do that. So we had three more, and we have three grandchildren as well. Our grandsons they all live down in Texas. So the quiver's full. We're very happy.
Yeah, awesome. So, so I know that you have a lot of different interests, right? I mean, obviously the outdoors and that piece of it, but you work professionally at selling real estate, and you helped my daughter and her husband get a house during it was the strangest thing. I remember going with you guys through a couple open showings, and it was at a time period, and maybe it's still this way now, is that we'd walk through, and by the time we were done, you were like, well, do you want to make an offer? And that was not the world that I came from, right? And but to the point, I can't remember exactly, but I think they made like three different or four different offers on homes at asking price or maybe even above, and still got declined until they finally got the house that they're in now. But just a crazy market. Is the market still like that?
It is still like that. It's the inventory's been low for years. We when COVID hit, we had about a 1 month bobble where everything kind of stopped, right? And then interest rates just kept going down, down, down. So we had all these buyers who might not have been qualified to buy a home at higher interest rates. All of a sudden, were qualified, and so all the inventory that was around started getting snatched up, and we have been flirting with historic low inventory on and off now for about 3 years. And it continues because we're just not building enough houses around here to make up the difference between the supply and the demand. So we have plenty of people that want to buy houses and they find something they like. And if they don't follow their professionals' advice and offer a truly strong offer, they get beat and they go, what just happened? Well, you were one of five offers and you were not the highest and best according to the seller's opinion of the offer that we wrote. So how do we make your offer look as best as we possibly can to try to win the next time? It's really difficult to manage, to navigate the current real estate market without a professional right now. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a realtor. It's really a challenge. It's a lot easier finding properties right now, right? Because we have all these online resources. That's great. But when you want to see something and then write an offer on something, if you don't have a professional already in your corner, you're behind the eight ball because it's going to take you a day or two to find that person, and then another day or two to figure out what it is you're needed to do. And by that time, the property's under contract. You've already lost. You didn't even get a chance to offer on it. So if my high recommendation to everyone that's thinking about buying or selling a property right now, talk to the real estate professional of your choice, get a good recommendation from a friend or family member, and stick with that person. As long as they're responding to you and they're getting back to you and taking care of you, stick with that one agent and let them help you get to the finish line. That's a challenge.
Yeah. I know that I'll hear people talk about they want to sell the house at, themselves, or, different things like you just said, but it is such a competitive market right now. It's everything's going at a different speed than
Oh yeah.
under 10 years ago, pace.
Yeah, it's a speed market, and that doesn't make people very comfortable, and I get that. The good news, especially for buyers, if you see a property today, you offered on it tonight, you get accepted in the morning, you didn't buy the property. You just got an offer accepted. And unless you scratched it off the contract, there is a home inspection contingency on your contract that gives you 5 business days to do a home inspection. So you haven't bought the property yet. You're not stuck with that property. You're still getting to do a home inspection and say, okay, what is the true condition of this property? I saw it with my eyes, but I want a professional's opinion as to what is working, what's not working, what's broken, what's not broken, and then decide, okay, yes, I still want this property. Let's go forward, get an appraisal, make sure the value's there, or no, this is more than I want to take on, more repairs needed than I want to take on, and we'll terminate and move on. So the worst case scenario, you spent $350, $400 maybe on a home inspection, and you found out that wasn't the house for you.
Well, in the big scope of things, $350 is definitely well worth it, even if it's just peace of mind, let alone what could potentially go wrong that's discovered in an inspection.
Yeah, absolutely. So highly recommend get a good home inspection. And I've got guys on the phone ready to go for you. So they're on call, ready to jump in and check that place out in the next couple of days.
Perfect. So, Greg, I mean, besides the real estate, obviously that takes up a big part of your time. You also are involved with, like you said, you do emceeing. You have done a handful of different things. You've been in musicals. Your family have all been in musicals. How did the musical world? How'd you get into the musical world?
That's a good question, because I did a couple things back in the day with our church. We did some church plays, back in the 90s. Actually, Christy and I met in choir at church when it was Rockford First Assembly of God Church. I moved to Rockford. I was working for Christian radio, which you see the sign behind me. It was called Positive Hit Radio 101 QFL. When I started there, it was Today's Christian Music 101 FM WQFL, and I played the music throughout the 90s. When I moved to Rockford, I had gone through a divorce and had custody of my 3 kids. And the year of my life before meeting and dating and marrying Christy was a crazy blur. I still don't know exactly how I survived it, other than God's provisions and some great people who helped me manage childcare and being able to work. I mean, single moms, single dads, it's tough. It's really tough. And my first apartment in Rockford was a 3rd floor apartment with no elevator and 3 kids under the age of 5. Figure that one out. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. This is another. Wow. That year was really, really tough. And meeting Christy and her putting up with my need to really test her after going through what I went through. I was not just going to marry the first girl who decided she wanted to be a mom. There's a whole nother journey discussion right there, Kevin. But she more than passed the test with flying colors, and we've been best friends and for 31 years now, and married for 30 of those. So, living in Rockford and doing Christian radio for 12 years was interesting, to say the least. And then I did radio down in Rochelle for 6 years and managed the stations down there, was the programmer down there. So being an on-air presenter for about 20 years, that was my stage. That was my, my outlet for creativity. I wrote and produced thousands of radio commercials and sold advertising and did all that stuff. But I didn't do a whole lot of acting other than that first couple of things, like back in the mid 90s with Christy at church. When our kids started getting older, they started getting involved with stuff at school. And then a few of our kids did the CYT, which was actually called Spotlight when they got involved. And then it went back into the CYT name. And so that's how we really got back into the theater world, and just seeing a company put on productions as close to Broadway quality as they possibly could. It was really inspiring. That first show I think we did with the kids was Tarzan. I wish I could remember the year that was, but Mariah and Noah, our two youngest, did that show together and just did great. It was so much fun. And well, Mariah did one show before that. She did Les Mis. That's what it was. Les Mis was the very first show that she did with Spotlight. And seeing that show put on at Rockford, at Rockford College there, was just, I'm like, these are kids. This is amazing. This is crazy. So they did a bunch of shows for a number of years. And when Shrek was announced at Starlight Theater for the 2018 season, I asked my youngest three, I said, you know what, this might be the only chance before you all move off to college or other jobs or wherever you end up going in your life, that we all get to do a show together. What do you say we all audition for Shrek and see if we can't, get little bit parts and do a show together this summer? And they all jumped on board, and we all got to be fairy tale creatures and Shrek the musical, which was great. I was Papa Bear, and Kenny and Noah were two of the three little pigs, and Mariah was one of the three blind mice, and she had some other duties on that show. We had a lot of fun. And I tell people that as much fun as I had doing Shrek in 2018 that summer, what really got through to me as far as Starlight Theater goes was one of the performers in the show Anything Goes had a conflict with two of the show dates that he couldn't perform. And I just happened to be standing nearby when he was talking to Chris Brady, and Jalen was talking to Chris Brady. Jalen goes, just remember, I got my brother's wedding on this date, and I won't be able to do those two shows. And Chris was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I'm like, what date is that? He's like, he told me the date, and I said, I could do it if you need me to fill in. And Chris was like, are you serious? Really? And we were about 3 or 4 weeks out from the show opening. So I had time to learn his part and had time to fill in with that cast. And the way that cast embraced me and helped me get up to speed to fill in for Jalen for those two shows. There was 2 Saturday shows, a matinee and an evening show. That did something to me. That was like, wow, this is really special. This is really cool. So I did 2 shows that summer. I did 2 shows the next summer, and every season since, except for the COVID year, I have done a show at Starlight every summer or winter. So it's been a fun experience.
Well, and my Sierra and Diane's, that was with CYT and then Gateway, that was their experience too. The community was something that they both embraced, and having Diane run the backstage for when Sierra was performing from 8 to 18 just was it opened up so many doors for her. And then when she finished with CYT, that's when she started as well. And I think it was either 28. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it was 2018. She may have done a show in 2017, but Shrek might have been her first Starlight show as well. And I think the difference between that I've observed, the difference between the community of with CYT and that community theater was the parents were so involved that there was this community where I think what I've noticed with Starlight, that there has been almost like a little bit of like a more of a family aspect of being embraced, and kind of like what you said about your experience of filling in at the last minute, and watching certain directors and certain actors develop over the years is pretty amazing.
The community aspect of it all, because there's a lot of what happens at Starlight you don't see on the stage. The backstage stuff, the crew stuff, the concession stuff. Yeah, you see the ushers, but you don't really think about it too much unless they bring up the fact that, hey, these are volunteers. They're not paid to be here. They're just helping the community. And it really is something special to know that people are willing to sacrifice their time and talents to do something that's really top-notch, professional looking production all summer long. It's really cool.
Well, and kind of going into, this is Suicide Awareness Month, and September has always been designated for just that. And as we are experiencing not only individuals in the young adults or just adults in the Rockford area that have died from suicide. This year, unfortunately, we've been impacted quite a bit from that as well. And then just some of the stuff that's gone on, statewide, nationally, with the violence that has happened and in the division. We do this event that you're going to be the MC for the second time, with SOS. Is the SOS annual fundraiser is this coming week. And really the theme of that is um, how can we be a light in others' darkness? And I was at church yesterday, and we were talking about this idea. The pastor was talking about this idea of how can we, in the midst of darkness, regardless if it's violence or if it's mental health or suicide, how can we be that light of hope, that light to be able to have conversations about it and to be a resource. And one of the things that we've committed to doing as a board and the vision of SOS is how do we involve young adults in being part of that, so that they then will have not only an access to SOS, but they'll be able to carry that message. So this coming Thursday, we're going to have Sierra and four other performers from Starlight are going to be performing two songs. And then we have two young ladies who've been just recently on the journey, that are going to be telling their story via Lonnie from Vixen Production, and talking about their story in a short film. You had the opportunity to be part of SOS last year, MCing. Maybe share just a little bit. What was that? That was the first time I think you had been to the SOS event.
It
Um,
is.
what was your experience like? What was some of the highlights for you?
Well, it's, Prairie Street's a great venue for events. They do such a wonderful job out there, and being next to the rivers is nice and all. The event itself, to see the community come together and recognize that we do have a challenge, and it's not an easy one, to really impact the youth, especially the youth and young adults in our community, to try to give them some hope, and give them some purpose, to see that many diverse people come together and say, "Hey, I'm not going to be silent about this. I know that things might be tough or seem tough, or whatever your situation may be, but you're not alone. Look at this room; it's full of people who care. We might not fully understand every little aspect of what someone's going through in their life. That doesn't mean we don't want to. That doesn't mean we, uh, you know, uh, don't have at least something to contribute. And whether that's an ear just to listen for a while, or some other activity to distract from some of the garbage in the world that goes on for all of us. It was just really encouraging. And I, as an MC, um, I'm not there to understand everything. I'm just there to facilitate. So thank you to those who pat me on the back and tell me I'm doing a good job and everything else. And that's I appreciate that. Honestly, though, I'm mostly naive to all the other aspects of what's going on. Someone who's put on events over the years myself, I do have an idea of all the things that happen to make events like this happen. So I think that maybe helps me be a better MC, just knowing um, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things we want to accomplish that at the last minute we find out ain't going to happen. Let it go, because there's other things. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there again at Prairie Street, and just seeing the community rally around the idea that, hey, in this world, we need to spread some more hope, and whatever part we can play in that, we're here to be a positive influence.
Well, yeah, and thank you. The your experience being an MC, your experience of being a radio personality, really does help would facilitate that. That was our first, last year was our first time being at Prairie Street. And it was, we went from, at Lombardi Club, where we only had the ability to have 20 tables of 8. Last year we had 31 tables of 8. This year, again, 31 tables of 8, and we had the opportunity to sell our last ticket 4 weeks before the show. And that was awesome in itself. But it's a big space, like you said, and in being able to, you can, I imagined with the event committee, we imagined what it was going to be like ahead of time, but we hadn't experienced it. And like you said, there was things that were happening all the way up until people were walking in,
Yeah.
and we still were working some of the bugs out. Now, this being our second year there, we have a better idea. I think we're more prepared for that space this year. And some of that's just learning curves. This is our ninth year of doing a type of event. We started in 2018 was our first dinner, and no, 2019 was our first dinner, and that was at the old Giovanni's. And that was when we phrased that one, athletes and artists out of the ashes. And
Oh,
we did a kind of a panel. Chris Brady was one of the artists. Kylie Lewis was one of the artists. Tommy Meeks and Justin Keegley represented the athletes, and we interviewed them. Instead of having one guest speaker, we interviewed them, or I interviewed them, and they were telling a little bit of their story of how, either as art, with Chris and Kylie, or as an athlete, how had that been part of their story? And that year, Josh Patterson was our MC, and he was there with his little boy, and he's about to have a little girl, and maybe already had. I saw him last week, but. So it has come a long ways, from holding events like we did when we first started, to now having the community support with the dinner, and then having Sierra and the Starlight Group perform, as well as Vixen doing a short film. So it's come a long ways, and just a ton of community support.
it's a lot of similarities with athletes and artists too. That's a really good idea. I wouldn't be surprised if you brought that back again in the future.
We have talked about it, especially for the 10-year, and
Mhm.
what we could do again regarding that aspect of it, and just the natural things that come out, kind of like you were talking about regarding the performing arts, how that can help individuals find their space in that world and find their voice, as well as you can do the same thing in sports.
Yeah, yeah. They both have that aspect of preparation and then execution, and there's a mindset for both of those things, and they're not the same. So it's a discipline that definitely helps grow you as a human being, I think.
Well, and I think one of the things that when I work with athletes, or for that matter, artists of all types, is that it's being able to live within the tension of preparation at 100%, performing at your 100%, but not getting tied up into the outcome. Uh,
Hmm.
and because the outcome, there's so many variables about what's considered a win or a success regarding what an outcome is, but almost always that isn't the thing that is the biggest gift that comes out of the experience. It's what we learn along the process is really that's really the gift of it.
Yeah.
And
When I,
so,
when I talk W's and L's, the W sure stands for win, but the L doesn't stand for loss. It stands for learn. You
yeah.
win or you learn. That's the best mindset I think to take.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's learning that it's okay to take the risk to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of what we're, really the messaging of not only the speaker, but the songs, definitely the film, is this idea of how can you take the risk to be vulnerable, have the courage to be able to, if Olivia can do it, if Kirsten can do it, if the singers can do that, then maybe I can do that too.
Mhm.
And or even for that matter, that we all have a light to shine. We don't have to be a professional. We don't have to, be highly trained. Maybe it's just about being kind and willing to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And expectations are a really huge thing. I think today, because there's so much social media, you can see all these big things happening, and you think if you can't do something big, it's not worth doing. And that, honestly, that's a mindset that I had to really, I struggled with, being in the broadcasting world for 20 years. Everything that we did event wise, promotions and such, it was all meant to draw lots of people. So the win was, hey, we had a live broadcast at this business and 50 people showed up. I don't know how many people spent money at the business, but I can tell the business owner, look what we did. We drew 50 people to come here. And in the 2 hours we were here, you saw people that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Yay, us, Uh, there's, that's nice. But in today's very multi-segmented world, a win is a win. And that means if two people show up at something that you did, good, great. You made an impact. It doesn't have to be 50 or 100 or 1,000. You can make an impact with 2 or 4 or 6. And I think that was a struggle that I had going from terrestrial broadcasting to the podcasting world, knowing that when I do our InCrowd 815 podcast live every Saturday morning, some mornings we don't have hardly anybody watching it live. And I kind of remind my guests that, hey, this, what we're doing on Saturday morning is less about how many people are actually watching live right now, and more about, now we have a social media piece that you can share everywhere. And that might get watched tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. You don't know the impact that this is going to have in the future. So look long-term. The phrase I like to say is look past your own hood. If you're driving your car and you're only looking at your hood, you're going to get in an accident. So just look past your own hood and down the street as far as you can see to see what else is coming. And just know that there's going to be results from this beyond anything we actually planned for today. So I hope that's encouraging.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I have definitely, and still can at times, experience that expectation of wanting, this many people to be at a talk or a seminar or workshop that I'm doing or an event that we're doing, and then have to remind myself that whoever's there is who's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That we're going to deliver the same information if it's 5 people or if it's 500 people, and those 5, it may be a better thing if it's just 5.
Right.
Even though we have 495 chairs, it still may be a better, because those 5 were there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly my point. There's wins that are bigger than sometimes you can see. And if you want to get spiritual about it, then we can also go with that aspect as well too, because there's way more happening in our world than we can see and even feel or hear or taste or touch. So be encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, tell us a little bit. I mean, you have started with InCrowd 815. Maybe tell us a little bit about InCrowd 815, and then something that you started 2 years ago, I think it was, or no, maybe last year.
Yeah, last
So
year.
yeah, so yeah, tell us a little bit about InCrowd 815. What's the purpose? What's the mission of that? And then about your event that'll be coming up next month.
Well,
Too much, I mean.
yeah. So InCrowd 815 is actually the marriage of a couple different things. My broadcasting radio career and radio show that was called the Saturday Morning State Line Show on WROK. I did that live every Saturday morning on WROK for 7 years. And then InCrowd bumped us off. They took all the weekenders off the station, and they furloughed us. So technically they could call us back tomorrow. I don't know. Thankfully though, the radio show, my producer, Tom, and we decided, you know what, until they call us back, let's take this to Facebook Live and just let people know we're not going anywhere. We're here. We're going to keep doing this. And we kept doing the show, the Saturday Morning State Line Show, as if we were on the radio live every Saturday morning on Facebook. We transitioned that over to YouTube during 2021 and kept doing it there. At the end of 2021, it was kind of when it was really dawning on me that, you know what, people aren't using YouTube like they use the radio or the television set yet. They are now, YouTube is being used like the TV now, and even for some people like the radio now, but in 2021, they weren't yet. So we weren't getting much traction with that as a show. So like we need to become a podcast. We need to start focusing on something, that makes sense for people to keep coming back and watching again and again. At the same time, the InCrowd networking group, which was started, 17 years ago now, 2008, 9. That was a group that was started because two awesome ladies, Yolanda and Rebecca, they had a commercial space down here in New Milford that they needed to find renters for, to lease or to sell. And so they threw this party and they called it the InCrowd. And a whole bunch of people showed up in New Milford, of all places. And all these people were like, this was so much fun. We should do this all the time. Can we do this every month? And this was in August, I believe, of 2008 or 2008. So in 2009, they set up this thing. They were looking around and saying, of all the networking things happening in Rockford, are there any out there that you don't have to pay for? Are there any free ones and don't have a bunch of restrictions? Because there's some great networking groups that I highly recommend, that cost money to join. And they also have restrictions as to like how many members can be in the same business, right? So as a realtor, I can't join certain groups because they already have realtors in the group. And that's fine. That's their prerogative, and that's great. So Yolanda and Rebecca were like, let's start a group that no restrictions. I don't care if all the realtors in town show up. That's fine. I don't care if all the bankers in town show up, if all the landscapers in town show up. That's fine. People do business with people that they like, know, and trust. So let's give people an opportunity to meet people in a social setting that is specifically geared toward being business related, right? And so every month, January through October, last Thursday of the month, they met at another business location. Another host had them do a networking group event, 5:30 to 7:30. Come on out, have some hors d'oeuvres, have a beverage, meet some new people. And they did this for a number of years. I want to say it was about 5 years. And then the two ladies, they needed to move out of state for different reasons. And they wanted to keep the group going in Rockford because it was doing very well. So a guy named John Berlin took it over, and John ran the show for 9 years. And for about the last 2 of those, he kept asking if I wanted to take it over, and I was like, no, I'm busy doing real estate. I'm busy doing other things. And then in the process of, again, the COVID thing, going off the radio, starting the podcast, I said, John, maybe I've got time to do this now because I want to see this keep going and growing and thriving. And maybe meant yes. So that was the start of the transition from John to me taking over InCrowd. And I told him, I said, when I take this over, I'm going to be doing things that you guys haven't done in the past. I'm going to be trying things that might flop and fail miserably, but I'm that kind of person that likes to see what works, try new things, try to find new ways to get people active and involved. And he's like, more power to you. Go get it. So I merged the Saturday morning State Line show and InCrowd. And because the two ladies were also trying to form InCrowds in their new respective cities where they moved to in Colorado and in Florida, there was a little Facebook confusion as to what InCrowd was what. And I'm like, we're going to end that now and call it InCrowd 815. So there's no confusion where we are and what we're about. Rebranded about 2 years ago. We rebranded to InCrowd 815, focused the podcast and the networking group events. We focus on Rockford area not-for-profits and the businesses that support them. So it's all about the collaboration between, I like to sometimes call it kindness capitalism. Capitalism gets a bad rap from some people these days. And I'm like, yeah, there's a bad aspect to it. I get it. You can make that argument all day and not lose. However, there's a lot of kind, compassionate capitalists out there who aren't just about the money. They want to see, the communities thrive. So let's focus on the kindness aspect of capitalism and find those people with like-minded ideas and goals, and pair them up and collaborate and do some brainstorming together. And it's been really wonderful to see how many people in the last 2 years, we've had well over 200 people attend our networking events in person at all these different locations. And it's been really cool to see how they've been made aware of some of these not-for-profits that before they'd had no clue even existed. And that's what we're doing now with the podcast as well. For the last couple of years, it's been a focus of, you might know this, there's actually 197 registered not-for-profits in the 815 area. There's actually well over 400 not-for-profits, but actually of those that are registered, technically registered, 197. So we made it our goal to have each one of those 197 on the InCrowd 815 podcast at least once, to tell their story, why they exist, how they do what they do. And we're up to about, I think, 87 now that have been on the podcast. We just had episode number 284. This weekend, episode 285 hits with Rockford Promise and Rosecrans coming on with us. So it's been a really cool thing to see. And so the three things we do is the podcast weekly, the networking groups monthly, January through October, and special events, which you're nice enough to say, hey, what's coming up next? The next is the Mass Karaoke Trivia Contest, which we tried last October for the first time, combining a contest with karaoke aspects and trivia aspects we had a $1,000 grand prize to give away. A team won for the Rockford Rescue Mission last October, and two teams won, I think it was $250 each. I think it's $250 each for Rock House Kids and Marshmallows Hope. So we had 3 winners out of the 10 teams. It was a fun event. Everyone had a great time. And again, it wasn't just about the money, the grand prize money. It was about the collaboration, the awareness. Again, people found out about not-for-profits that they didn't even know existed. We did it again in April. We had 12 teams this time with a $2,000 grand prize, and the winning team won $2,000 for Rock House Kids. There was a couple of teams playing for Mosaic and Rockford, which won money as well. And again, great time, wonderful event. And it's time to step it up. So we're bringing it to Tabala this time. We went from the Hilton, which was a great place to be, great place to start this event at the Hilton Garden Inn. Now we're going to be at Tabala, a bigger space. Again, 12 teams, but this time we have a $5,000 grand prize sponsored by Medicare 411 here in Rockford, which is an amazing business here. It looks like a franchise. It's one of those businesses you think has to be franchised, but it's not. It's a local business, Medicare 411. And Tracy Foltz and her crew over there have been helping folks navigate the Medicare process of Medicare landscape. That is, it's messy. There's so many moving parts to that thing that if you are a senior or have a senior in your life that's trying to figure that out, you should talk to someone like them, because they're really great. So they're putting up the grand prize this time. We also have 2 $1,000 prizes to give away this time, courtesy of Gemini Solar and Waldom Electronics. We'll have other prizes involved as well, even for the audience people that are there to just watch and witness the event. So if you're coming because one of your friends is on a team and you're just there to cheer them on, if we pull out your raffle ticket randomly, you'll get a chance to play a game this time we're calling Triv or Care. You've played Truth or Dare, but have you ever played Triv or Care? No, because it's never existed before this event. So you'll pick an envelope at random. That envelope will have a trivia question and a karaoke song associated with it. You can choose to either answer the trivia question to win the prize or sing the karaoke song to win the prize. And what's in that envelope will be a mystery until the person wins it. So I think we're going to have a blast again. Someone's going to win $5,000 for their not-for-profit, which is amazing. And I want everyone to know the big, hairy, audacious goal for this event is to someday hold it in the Coronado Theater and to have a $10,000 check handed to the winning team. That's my big goal for this event. I hope to have that done in the next 4 years now, because last year I said it would take 5 years. And now we're down to 4. So the clock's ticking in my brain. And you had a lot of fun at it last time.
Yep. So we've been there the first 2 times, and we'll be there this 3rd time as well. How many? What's the date? And then how many teams do you already have signed up, and do you have room for others to be part of it?
Yeah. November 13th. It's a Thursday night, so a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, we're going to be at Tabala. 12 teams of 8. Your team doesn't have to have 8 people on it, but you can have up to 8 people on your team. So far, we have 8 teams signed up and confirmed to be in. So there's still 4, as of this taping, there are still 4 openings for teams to join us. And there are only 3 things required. It's a $400 entry fee. There must be a not-for-profit represented that has a local impact. It can't just be something without any local impact. So preferably a local office of some sort. And then a business sponsor or partner, because in that room, when on a Thursday night, November 13th, when we play this contest, there's going to be 12 teams and 24 organizations represented in that room, not including who's there just in the audience to witness the whole thing. So think about that for a second. There's 24 organizations, 12 businesses, and 12 not-for-profits, many of which have never heard about each other before, other than maybe the random TV ad or news story or something. But they're going to be in a room with these people and realize, look at the kindness and generosity that exists in the 815 area. It's strong, it's healthy. There's a lot of great things happening here in the 815, and I've been blessed to witness it now for 35 years I've been involved in the Rockford area. And it's really fun to see this grow into something bigger than anything I could ever have imagined. I mean, I get a kick out of the performance aspect of it, obviously, putting on an event that involves being on the stage, doing trivia, singing karaoke. Some are okay, some are really good, some are amazingly excellent. The gal that won the karaoke prize last year for her team just blew us all away. Didn't know who she was. Where'd she come from? She wasn't one of the Starlight people that we were expecting to blow us away, which they did. They were good, but this gal came out of nowhere and wowed the judges, and our celebrity judges gave her the highest score. And so you just don't know until it happens. And it's going to be a fun event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was and like you said, a year ago when when it was the first event, and then to what you did 6 months later or so, it grew from there, and it sounds like it's even going to develop even to that next level for this coming November, and so we're looking forward to it. So
Here's hoping.
yeah,
Here's hoping. And so there, yeah, if you want to be involved, look up InCrowd815.com, and all the information is on our website.
perfect. Just speaking from, as we get ready to wrap up, speaking from that, regardless, regarding this idea, what would any parting words that you'd want to share for anyone listening regarding the Rockford area, the 815 area, or just maybe outside of the area, but may have just be from a networking standpoint or from a mental health standpoint, anything come to mind?
I know the one note that I've jotted down that I wanted to make sure I mentioned today was the fact that if you or your organization is doing an event, it's very extremely important in the process of planning an event to make sure it's extremely easy for people to plug into it. And what I mean by that is, if, for example, if you're selling tickets to an event, is it as easy as 1 or 2 clicks to get those tickets? Or is it hard and they got to find something, and that it's easy, you got to search before you can actually find the entry portal to buy the ticket and to get more information. You got to make things so easy now, especially with the whole social media age that we live in. If it takes more than 2 clicks to get to the destination you want them to go, you're going to lose so many people. So I would just encourage everybody that if you're doing an event, ease of use for the end user is so extremely important. And I bet there's a relatability to that in the mental health world of taking care of people. How many roadblocks are there to getting help that's needed for your personal mental care and of those you love? Are those roadblocks perceived, or are they real? And if they're real, how can they be removed? I actually wanted to ask you, who designed your Shatter Our Silence logo? Who did the SOS logo?
So who originally did that was a gentleman named Aaron Johnson. He
Okay.
is a extremely talented artist, graphic designer here in town. At that time, Thinker Ventures
Mhm.
was one of our primary sponsors. I met with Aaron and Jason. There's a cool story with that we the three of us met at the origins of SOS. We decided that the original focus was about how do we raise awareness and educate young adults and their significant others, as well as the professionals who work with them, on the factors that lead to young adult suicide. So we decided that we were going to go to Rockford University and interview students and see what would catch their attention, what would be something that would be for them engaging, something they would be willing and want to wear from a logo standpoint. We
Mhm.
figured if we attracted college students, then high school and middle school students would like them versus the other way around. If we had high school students help us design it, there's a possibility we'd miss out on the college age students. And so that was some of the ideas that got thrown around, and out of that day that we spent at Rockford University, Aaron came up with that design, and an SOS, or Shatter Our Silence, has been it's been since then. The official legal name of SOS, or Shatter Our Silence, is Young Adult Mental Health Awareness Council. That's the official legal name, hence why doing business as Shatter Our Silence has been much better brand.
Exactly, exactly. I love how the O is, thought bubbles, quote bubbles, or uh, it's really really genius. Kudos, Aaron.
Yeah, did a phenomenal job. And to the point, the logo is, we're coming up on 10 years that we will been using that same logo. Diane designed new shirts that we're going to be displaying the night of the event in a couple days, and opportunities for people to order those shirts as well. I think we'll always have the original as the original, but she wanted to play around with some ideas of making it a little bit more colorful, a little bit more dynamic.
Cool, good deal. Looking forward to seeing that on Thursday night.
Yeah. So thank you again, Greg, for being here. And if someone was looking to get more information, InCrowd815.com.
Yeah, and we highly encourage people to go to Spotify. If you're not a Spotify user, it's free. And what I love about Spotify is you can put a podcast on and turn your screen off on your phone and keep listening to it. You can't really do that with YouTube and you know, other places, but we're on all the other places as well. When we go live Saturday mornings, we're on Rumble, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook, all those places at the same time, which is really fun and cool. But at the end of the day, it goes to Spotify, and that's I think the easiest, most effective place to listen to podcasts is on Spotify.
Awesome. Thank you. So, for anybody listening, especially in the greater Rockford area, if you are involved with a nonprofit, I would highly encourage you to reach out to Greg and Tom. It's an awesome time being on their show. I've had the opportunity to be on the show twice, and they do a great job, make it very comfortable to get your messaging out and your mission out. I've definitely encouraged you to do that, as well as if there's anything that we talked about today, definitely visit InCrowd815.com or shatteroursilence.org for more information. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to being with you next week.